Yeah, thank you so much for coming. This is great.
You're welcome.
I know you've mentioned it in class before. I don't recall. Are you a convert or cradle Catholic?
I'm a convert. Yeah.
Okay, what were you before?
So my father's a Southern Baptist minister. Both my parents were raised in the Assemblies of God tradition,
Okay,
and yeah, my father's still a minister down in Texas.
okay, wow.
Yeah,
The Baptists stereotypically don't like Catholics very much. How
yeah,
how
yeah.
how is how is that with your family?
Yeah, both my parents, they don't have any sort of deep anti-Catholic prejudices or anything like that. I just don't think Catholicism was really any sort of live option for them growing up.
Hmm.
We didn't really know many Catholics. Um, just seemed a little, from our sort of low church background, it just seemed a
Right.
little bit very formal and stuffy and
Hmm.
smells and bells, and it just
Yeah.
seemed kind of weird. But honestly, it's not like we thought a lot about Catholicism and thought, oh, this is all wrong and here's why. And,
Right.
we kind of grew up hearing some things like, I don't know, like they worship statues or something weird like that,
Right.
Um, but I don't know. I don't even know that we thought. Unfortunately, I don't know that we really thought of Catholics as Christians. Although I don't remember
Mm.
people saying they're not Christians or something like.
Right.
It wasn't like a
Which you do hear
super,
nowadays a
which you do
lot.
hear sometimes. So, but it wasn't a super
Yeah.
prejudicial thing. It just was a little bit dismissive, I think.
Yeah. It's kind of like how I think most of us think of, some more niche denominations. We're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sort of there, but
Yeah,
don't really give them
yeah,
much
yeah.
thought.
But it's so funny now from the outside seeing how provincial, these little Protestant groups are. That it's its own little subculture, its own little
Hmm.
world. But it feels really big when you're on the inside of it.
Right.
But the minute you step outside of that, you realize, whoa, there's this whole universal church that's so much bigger.
Yeah.
And just the whole Catholic world is obviously so much bigger than any one of those
Yeah.
sort of denominations. So, yeah.
So you're from Texas originally, or did your
No,
parents move there
my
later?
family's all down there now, but I kind of grew up all over. I mostly grew up in Michigan and Washington State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how'd you first encounter Catholicism?
So right after college, I worked in Seattle for a little while, and then this think tank asked me to start up a DC office. And when I moved out there, all of a sudden, I met all these super intellectual Catholics, and they were everywhere. It was very surprising to me because I never really encountered serious Catholics who really
Mm.
were sort of smart, informed, and really loved the faith. And that Arlington diocese is fantastic,
Oh, brilliant.
and so I encountered all of a sudden all these people, and I was in an office with people like George Weigel and other
Oh,
people,
wow.
and
Okay.
I was sort of like, yeah. All of a sudden, this was after about 2 years of talking, I warmed up to it, and then all of a sudden it was a live option, and then I read about it for a little while, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So were you a doctor by this point, or?
No. I took off 5 years between my undergraduate studies and graduate work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your undergrad in then?
So I studied philosophy, history, and something called American Studies, which is kind of a mix of American literature and history and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, so was like the advanced work after you converted then, or?
We were basically my wife and I were on our way into the church. We basically decided that we were going to go to RCIA right when I got to grad school in Waco, Texas. And fortunately, we had an awesome priest there at Baylor who actually did a PhD in Southern Baptist ecclesiology. So he was very informed, and he kind of understood where I was coming from, could answer all my questions, and very, very smart and passionate priest. So that really helped us in too, because we had never met any priests or religious, like, ever.
Yeah.
We never, maybe seen one from a distance, but we never talked to one.
Yeah.
So it was great. We lucked out just having just a fantastic and really, really philosophically trained and smart priest that we could ask all kinds of questions to that that maybe not everyone could have answered. So it was very providential for us. But yeah,
I know there's at least one other guy at Franciscan where
Yeah.
you teach who also went to Baylor.
Yes.
Dr. Dom, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt Berninger, the psychologist, and then
Okay.
and then Brandon Dom, the philosopher. We were all at grad school at Baylor at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
We were all
wow.
friends there. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is there some sort of connection between Franciscan and Baylor, or did you just all?
I was sort of the
happen to
first one, and then we had a kind of wave.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that Baylor has quite a Catholic population. So it's
Really?
over 20% of the student body, and they're quite serious Catholics.
Wow.
And we have a lovely Catholic student center. It's really not a bad option, especially if you for the honors college or the Great Books program. There is very. Most of the professors, I would say, are probably Catholic, and very seriously so. And actually, it's actually a great little place for Catholics, and the philosophy department has a bunch of Catholics too, so that's great.
I found in any, at least in my experience, yours might be different, and it's definitely more broad than mine.
Yeah.
But any school that takes philosophy seriously most of the professors have been Catholic.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what happened. So at Baylor, they had this, the president in the late 90s started to develop this vision for this vision for the future of Baylor University, where they really wanted to beef up its sort of scholarly status, make it a better university, but at the same time increase its Christian faith among the professors and the student population. They basically looked at Notre Dame as a model, but they wanted it to be more, more and more sincerely, Christian, and not just hire whomever was the best scholar, but the best Christian scholars they could find. But to do that, they really had to hire a bunch more Catholics, basically.
Right.
And so it turned the place much more Catholic, actually. So that's when you got Francis Beckwith and Alexander Pruss and these kinds of people there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I did the first half of my undergrad at Catholic U, which is probably around where you were when you were in DC. Yes. But depending on where you go, all the teachers have to, at the very least, take an oath of I'll teach Catholic things. But you'll be in some classes, and if they're not Catholic, you don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. But the philosophy department's like almost everyone is like very, very seriously Catholic. Yeah. And it's like they start from a basis of, well, this is what the church teaches, and then move past that to the other stuff.
Right. Well, there's been such a renewal of Christian philosophy in the last 50 years, 60 years that most people don't know about. I mean, it's really, in the philosophical academic world, outside some very niche sort of Catholic circles, it just wasn't respectable to be a theist, let alone a Christian in philosophy for quite some time. With the dominating view of logical positivism, right? From basically the turn of the century on up to past the Second World War. But in the 1970s, with Christian scholars like Alvin Plantinga, Richard Swinburne, they just made a path for and William Alston. They really made a path at the highest level for other Christians to enter academic philosophy, and now we're pretty well represented. We're way overrepresented. Yeah. Among, obviously, you go to a random English department, in American universities, you're unlikely to find too many Christians there, but in philosophy, you're likely to find a couple at least.
At least a few.
I mean, yeah, for sure, and it's certainly a respected position that other people have to grapple with, even though it's not the dominant view.
Right. It's interesting. My generation we tend to go all in on one way or another. So if you meet like Catholics, they're like, for the most part, hardcore, serious. Most of my generation is like, if they're Catholic, they're like the traditional smells and bells, Catholic. Yeah.
They want it all.
Exactly. It's like, we want everything, or I want none of it. Yeah. And then they can, it's like, atheists my age are like the most vehement atheists. You're like, no. Yeah. Absolutely nothing's true. They're at least honest about it. They're like, oh, absolutely nothing makes sense. Nothing's true. It's just what we happen to believe. And I'm both encouraged and discouraged by it, because, we tend to find our view and sort of settle in it. And since there's a lot more of that in my age of like, for the philosophy and the theology and like the old things than there is without it. But I don't know, you experience that, I'm sure, with your students though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's something encouraging about that if people aren't willing, it's not cool to call yourself Catholic in most places. So people aren't doing it for their reputation, to put it on their resume that I'm Catholic, right? I mean, if anything, in many quarters of, educated elite society, that's going to be a negative. But and so you got to be pretty serious about it if you're gonna be Christian today. And there's something clarifying about that. At least maybe the positive is people aren't mistaken that since they're Irish, they're like going to heaven or something. Do you know what I mean? Right. They're not like, well, I'm Irish, I'm Catholic. We go.
That's not how it works.
People are less mistaken about that, and we're less tied to our sort of ethnic identities, I think, than in the past, obviously. Which is one reason I am Catholic, probably because people of my generation grew up in lots of different kinds of churches. It wasn't like we were Swedish Lutheran or we were this or that ethnically tied thing, right. And so it's not surprising to me though that people in my parents' generation, it was a less serious thing. It was a less pressing question whether they would convert to Catholicism. They were more ethnically tied to their denominations. But people my age, we've been in and out of so many different. If you're Protestant, you've been in and out of so many different good kinds of churches. I went to Presbyterian churches and Baptist churches and all kinds of churches. So it wasn't like there was some big barrier to
right?
To Catholicism. Yeah, so I guess the good part of the all or nothing choice for Catholicism among people your age, the good part is, yeah, you know what you're getting into a little bit more. There's a little bit of a cost to it, so you better be serious about it. But you're kind of right too that there's something sad, I guess, still in the loss of almost cultural Catholicism.
Yeah.
There's something sad about that. I think of like the book Brideshead Revisited, where you got this family and Catholicism sort of has its hooks in these people, whether they like it or not.
Right.
And you see that in a sense, the cultural Catholicism is so steeped into their psychology that they have to wrestle with it their whole lives. Right. And so there is still something to be lamented about losing cultural Catholicism because, in times of crisis, you know where to turn.
Right.
But without it at all, if you get a couple generations in where people don't have any background in the faith at all, no connection to it whatsoever, you do worry, are we reaching out to these people or how do we bring them in? Maybe it's more something we need to think more about. How do we bring people in that have zero background? Because I think as Catholics, right? I mean, I don't know, my observation, in the last 15 years of being Catholic is something like our outreach is like, hey, our doors are always open. Right. There's not always like, because we don't want to be weirdos on the street with signs and pickets and you're going to hell.
Kidnap them and pull them in.
Yeah, we don't want those things, but at the same time, we do need to consider we're in a new phase in the whole Western world where many people just don't have any even cultural connection to the church anymore.
Right. And so Christianity gets sort of lopped together like, oh no, you're all like, once you get inside Christianity, you might have debates on different things, but like, in general, you're all these like, looking down your noses, snobby Puritans.
Yeah.
And I've always hated that. Like I remember one time when I was in seminary, it was after the Easter Vigil, and some friends of mine were like, oh, hey, we're going to run to a bar downtown. Do you want to come by? And I was like, sure. It's like 1 a.m. And I'm still in like my cassock, like the full cassock, the collar, everything. And, we're walking out of the bar, and there's people outside who are definitely drunk, and they're just like smoking some cigarettes, and they look over at me, they're like, oh my gosh, we weren't saying anything. And I pull out my cigar tin and open it up and pull one out and lit it up. I was like, oh no, you guys are fine. And they're like, oh, this isn't evil. I'm like, not inherently, no. How much do you smoke? But it's so people view all of Christianity as like, oh well, if you join, you can't have any fun at all. You're always sad. You're always, or you're like the most charismatic people in the world, where you're like falling down randomly and there's weird flashing lights at all of your services and feels like a rock concert with like less fun music. So it's not the most outwardly inviting thing just by itself. Right. You need something else.
Yeah. Well, and we need to build relationships with people and make it a winsome and attractive thing. I mean, I think, there's something to be said for just, living by the church's dictates is itself a form of evangelism. It's not like people don't. I mean, people will notice your ordinary life more and more.
Right.
They notice how many children you have. They notice that you're caring for them, that you're involved with them, that you're not just sort of shipping them off and and so forth. And so there's just a lot of things living our faith in an ordinary way that people really do notice, and the neighbors do ask us, "Oh, what's that all about?" And just being involved in our neighborhood, things like that. I mean. So it's not like we need to go to crazy extremes. I actually think in a way, just living the faith, publicly is just, we don't need to shout it from the rooftops all the time. People will notice more what they wouldn't have noticed 50 years ago.
No, that's true. I think that's part of it, that cultural. I think you said we had a loss of cultural Catholicism. I think it's both correct and incorrect because Flannery O'Connor's a great line where she talks about the South, saying it's not very Christian, but it's Christ haunted, and I think that's like the Western world in general right now. It's people still claim morality and claim like, oh well, no, killing is wrong, stealing is wrong, and basically cite the 10 Commandments, saying, oh no, you still shouldn't do this. Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, why? You have these values because Christianity, because Catholicism conquered the Western world. Yeah. So,
and there's a lot of smart people starting to realize this. I mean, right? You have Tom Holland, the historian over in the UK, and
not the actor,
Ion Hersey-Lee. And those exactly, those kind of people who are starting to realize, wait a minute, all these things that we love about Western society, people still believe them, but they're like ungrounded. Yeah. Why do we think all these things are wrong now that we've kind of cut away this foundation of God-given rights and things like that?
Wasn't it? I think Nietzsche who. Basically said, oh yeah, no, I don't believe in God, and yes, that does mean nothing matters. But wasn't that him?
Yeah, I mean, he totally accepts that view. The thing about him is he thinks it's tragic, whereas other people think
it's good.
Woohoo! Yeah. We're liberated, and
right.
He's like, wait a minute, we're completely untethered. You know, I mean, what are our rituals? What do we celebrate? How do we cope with death? What's the how do we forge? I mean, for him, from his perspective, he's saying, how do we forge completely new meaning and completely new rules if they're not actually given to us through natural law and revelation? How he's like, oh no, how do we live? We're untethered from everything.
Right.
Whereas I think a lot of the new atheist stuff that was popular 15, 20 years ago, it was just sort of woohoo, there's no God, we can do what we want, no sexual rules, yay. Right. And which is, I think, is a rather immature way to think about it. Even if you're going to be an atheist, I think you ought to think, there is something terrifying about this prospect of, is our morality really all made up? Right. How does one live in the absence of an actual moral code you think is really true?
Right.
I
mean, are all of your thoughts about it simply just random atoms hitting each other in your head? Is that all it is?
That's all
you've been relegated to.
Yeah, that's always been a big
yourself
worry.
To that.
Yeah, that's always been a big worry for materialism or naturalism or atheism, that if we're just these material beings, we don't have souls, we're not made in the image of God. Are even our thoughts, are they just kind of programmed things that are just accidental emotions going on in our brain and our chemistry?
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things in sort of like the new wave of atheism is it's not just atheism. We see paganism rise again. We're seeing basically every polytheistic religion sort of coming back. Their values coming back. We have polyamorous relationships coming back as like a big good thing.
Yeah.
We can't define man and woman. We are killing children in the womb. And it's not a flourishing society. I was talking with a friend the other day. He goes to Franciscan. And he was like, I love how, and I'm not getting political, but I'm just observing something. Mm-hmm. If you get radicalized like by the left side of the aisle, which is in general more atheistic and all the other things, your life tends to sort of fall apart. You're like, you look kind of depressed. You don't look good. Like you cut off all your hair and have half of it's long, half of it's short. It's dyed like 7 different colors. Yeah. You have like eye tattoos and stuff like that, and you don't have families, and you are constantly sleeping around, which isn't fulfilling. Yeah. But the quote unquote radicalized people from like the right side of the aisle, well, that's simply just like, oh no, I like have a family. It's like what used to people say to you, like, hey, like, you have 5 kids. That's crazy. Yeah. Having 5 kids wouldn't have been crazy 20 years ago. Yeah. Would have been like, oh, that's like a bigger side of the family. But like 40 years ago even, it would have been like, oh, you have a normal family.
Yeah, there's something very sad going on where not only people have all the green and purple hair and stuff, but there's something sad that, I mean, this sort of antinatalist movement where people are just not even, it isn't just that they want to limit the size of the family, they in a kind of radical way, but I mean, many people I think it's almost immoral to have children. Many young people, they cite things like global warming and how could you bring a child into this world, and there's still all these myths of overpopulation and stuff, and to me, there's something so sad about that. The thing that's sad to me is the things that people have always found joy in are the very things that we're sort of cutting out. So it feels very life-denying in that sort of sense. Exactly. Speaking of Nietzsche, this sense that it's just kind of life-denying and sad. So I'm sad for the secularization of society, and you do wonder, what comes next? I mean, if people think that what's going to happen, because this was the new atheist thing, right? From 20 years ago, people thought, well, listen, we can just cut out religion and we'll all still have the same values and we'll think the same ways about the world, except it'll be more reasonable and we'll cut out some religious nonsense and some superstitious stuff. But
now we say men can get pregnant.
It didn't take long, did it?
No.
Right? A refusal to say something like that men can't get pregnant. It really is amazing. And to say really that like there is no one way of life, it's a radical thing to say that any way of life is better than any other way of life. There's such a there's such an unwillingness to say anything like that, to even just nudge people in a better, rather than, we're not talking about being oppressive or heavy-handed with the law, but even just a willingness just to say something like, having a family can, is this thing that humans have always found meaning in, and it's worthwhile to forge deep and lifelong relationships with, and to have children, and to say that, it's not to say that everyone has to have children or something, but to say that the ideal is not being a single man into your 60s who thinks that, drinking a 12-pack on the weekend is a thriving way of life.
Oh yeah.
But we're just not allowed to make any judgments. People are so scared of making judgments, and because they don't want to sound moralistic, but we've gotten into this territory that feels absurd.
It is
that
absurd.
No way of life is better than any other. That's crazy.
It's absolutely absurd. It's not.
But they're afraid that we're going to be oppressive to different people, and I think we got to get over that, and we got to say, no, we're not here to police everyone's life. We're not, shining flashlights in your windows to figure out what you're doing on Friday night. We just. But we do think some ways of life are better than others.
Exactly. And they react to any claim that there might be something better as that shining the lights in the bedrooms. Like even if someone says like, oh yeah, I think pornography should be illegal. Or I think it should be banned. People are like, oh, so you want people like, coming into my house and checking on my internet history? I'm like, no, I just think you shouldn't be allowed to access it.
Right.
Like it. Right. Those are two complete different things. But that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So. It is a irrational side of thinking when you deviate God from it, and it is incredibly prevalent in the current culture, whilst still being irrelevant, because everyone still tries to use reason to defend it.
Yeah.
But sadly, now we have the one side saying, okay, well, it has to be based on something objective, and the other side saying, well, it's based on my feelings.
Yeah, it is weird. It's hard to know how to take all the takeover of the feelings. I mean, in one sense, sometimes I guess it substitutes for argument. In another sense, I don't sense that people really believe it. I think they just, it's like the overriding concern, though. So, for instance, I mean, do you actually think most people your age who say things like, well, he's a she now, and that kind of thing, do you think they really believe that those people have changed sex? Or do you think that they're saying, I'm going to speak this way because I'm afraid of hurting anyone's feelings?
Oh, no, definitely the latter.
I think it's definitely the latter,
Absolutely.
Right? Now, although you speak that way long enough, and you do wonder if more and more people will think metaphysically we've changed, boys and girls, or vice versa. So I'm actually worried about how far that goes. But yeah, I think it's more the latter. And so it's not, it's something like, it's not that in that case, maybe feelings are substituting for argument, but it's somehow that feelings are our highest value, maybe?
Right.
Something like that. Like, or basically like kindness. So maybe morality, instead of getting rid of it, we've just dumbed it down to the farthest level of wanting everyone to feel comfortable.
Right.
And there, of course, that can be a moral act to sort of say, listen, you're welcome here in my home. Right. You're my friend. There's something obviously right about basic kindness and respect and making people feel welcome, but surely that isn't our highest value, right?
And I think
you're my murderer friend. You're always welcome in my home.
Well,
like, no, we wouldn't say so.
That.
yeah.
But no, I think what's interesting is I would substitute the word kind for nice, because kindness is a gift of the Holy Ghost. It is something we're called to be as Christians.
Yeah.
But actually was talking to some people the other day, and I even said, like, it's not kind to tell a person addicted to drugs, I'll help you find some meth. That's not a kindness. That's a disservice. But it might be nice. It might make them feel
like polite
good.
outer behavior.
Exactly.
So but it doesn't really have their good in mind, is what you're saying.
Right. And I think kindness has to have your good in mind.
Yeah.
And so
because otherwise it has your own good in mind, right? Because the reason you said these things to that person was to save face yourself,
exactly.
Make yourself feel like I'm a tolerant, nice person.
Exactly.
And I would never hurt anyone's feelings. And so I'm so good at the expense of actually behaving in a way that might, help other people or help lead them to the truth or help them live good lives.
Which is funny because, again, I think that lends itself to a certain hypocrisy. Because if you look at Christians, you don't hear Christians going around saying, "Oh no, I'm a good person. I'm a great person." Most Christians are like, "No, I'm a sinner. I'm awful. I need forgiveness. I need redemption." But you hear the people who are like, pro mutilation and baby murder, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm a good person."
We're fine.
It's like you sound like you're telling yourself that because you aren't happy. We can observe your life. You're not happy.
Yeah.
Like a video went viral, I think about a year ago. This woman, it was a day in the life video, and I hate those videos very, very much because they're obviously fake. But she's like, "Oh, it's a day in my life of a single, childless woman in like my 30s or something.
I'm so happy.
I'm so happy. I can do whatever I want today. So I made my coffee. I got some Starbucks, and I decided to watch some Netflix.
Yeah.
And then I did a little bit of work, and then I watched some YouTube, and then I posted some stuff on social media. Basically, at the end of the video, she's like, "And I'm really great day." And I'm like, "You just told me that you wasted like the majority of your day online watching other people do things, listening to podcasts about other people who did stuff, watching a fantasy show about whatever, which are all good. I love movies, I love TV shows, and make you clip it into your videos all the time. So like, they're a good thing to have. They're an art form, but your life has to be something else.
Yeah.
But they claim happiness, and yet you can observe that they're not.
Yeah. Well, and I just think it's such short-term thinking. I mean, I think in American society, we just sort of idealize the lives of, and we've done this for a long time. This isn't just something in your generation or whatever. I mean, like the television show Friends, right? I mean, we're just sort of idealize the life of people in their, let's say, late 20s, single people in their late 20s. We sort of idealize their freedom and their, young achievers,
right?
And I just think, well, yeah, okay, I understand, and people will have days as parents where they think, oh man, I wish I had a free day to like go to Starbucks and lazily watch some videos, and because you get a certain point in life and you can get overwhelmed by, children and responsibilities and things, and so I understand at one level why we idolize that, but that person's not going to be filming the end of their life and be like, this is so great, there's no one here,
right?
For me, because I haven't really built these lasting attachments, and and so I think it's a sad thing. I think it's a really sad thing, and I want to encourage people too who have children and long for those days, especially people in the little kid phase. It can just be hard, right? I mean, you're going to get married. The little kid phase is really hard, but boy, it gets really sweet to see your children grow and to see them grow into themselves, and to forge those relationships with them if you've been intentional about them. That's the greatest thing ever. I'd give up all the Starbucks in the world for that, and people that are going to care about you when you're older, and
and you have a legacy.
And to build something, an accomplishment, right? I mean, and that's maybe sort of philosophically the thing to think about here is what really is happiness, right? And so one way to think about happiness is a kind of achievement, right? That there's a kind of excellent thing that you've built. And so you mentioned the word legacy, something you can look back on and that you're proud of and that lasts into the future, that the way of life that I'm leading is a flourishing one that has a sort of fruitful future to it, right? I mean, that's what we want. We don't want much just Starbucks. Exactly. Though there are days where I'm like, man, I wish I had $5, because everything gets sucked up. Kids need braces and all this stuff. The money gets sucked up, and you wonder, oh, I wish I could just sit at Starbucks for 5 minutes. So I get it, but man, I mean, it should be so easy to evangelize in some ways, right? It should be. If the alternative is that, because I see all those TikTok type YouTube clips too, right? I'm thinking, oh man, that's, or on the male side, right? It's sort of this, you need to start 7 passive income streams before breakfast, and you need to, have lifted weights for 3 hours before the sun rises. Right. And then you'll feel good about yourself as a man.
And then you'll be a man.
And then you'll attract all the women, and you're supposed to kind of discard them at will. And it's just this kind of gross version of what they think we're supposed to be doing as men. And it too sounds sad to me in the same way. You're going to look back and you're going to say, okay, I did all this stuff, and I got all these accomplishments and money, and it attracted people to me, but was it even the right kind of people? Right. And what did I build? Did I really invest? I invested all this money, but did I invest in a family and in building my community and serving others? Or is it just kind of about my image of myself when I look in the mirror? I feel good about myself because I'm strong. Like I'm muscles, exactly. And it's like, it's kind of,
It's like, I quite obviously don't work out very often. Yeah. It's not my thing. I sit at a desk and I write talks and I read books. And but I'm like, well, no, I'm very comfortable in my masculinity because it's Catholic masculinity. Yeah. I'm far from achieving peak Catholic masculinity in any stretch of the imagination, but like I feel good about myself as a man insofar as that is. But more than that, and I'm sure you feel this with, your wife, but my fiance acknowledges it. She's like, no, like you're the best man I know. And yet she is, especially at Catholic U on a college campus, surrounded by like the jocks and like the guys with the big beards and like the massive muscles and stuff. And she's like, well, no, I don't want them. I want you.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a new and lovely feeling to have. But, and you've been married for years. Yeah. I assume it lasts for a while.
Yeah, no. I think it's hard because it's not, I mean, I don't want to, no one needs it to discourage, right? I mean, obviously taking care of our bodies is a great thing.
Oh, of course.
Being strong is a great thing. And that's one way that men can be useful to our communities, to our families. That's great. But to confuse that with sort of the masculine role itself, the sort of protector provider role, that's just an outward trapping of that. It's an outward sign of something, but the real question is, are you, I mean, what if you had all these muscles, but you don't care about anybody but yourself? You're not real masculine, right? Because you're not taking on any sort of provider, protector sort of role. It's like you've got the equipment and you're not using it in the right way. Right. What's most important is that you're using your body in the right way, right?
And you have a strong will as well. Because the amount of guys who are like physically massive and athletically gifted and
but zero self-control.
Zero self-control. They're sleeping around all the time. They're looking at stuff on the internet. It's nothing to control them.
Yeah.
They
view it as a strength because they think they're getting what they want, but it's a kind of weakness in the classical sense, right? A kind of weakness in a failure to control self, right? Is a kind of it's a vice.
No, and it, like you said earlier, it is very short term. I love that you brought up Friends because I like sitcoms. I don't like Friends, to be honest.
Yeah, I never liked it in the 90s.
My go-to was always How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah,
I love that show because it showed very, very clearly like the protagonist, Ted Mosby, doesn't want to be single.
Yeah.
The entire point of the show is, no, I want to meet my wife. I want to meet your mother. I want this.
Yeah.
And there's certain whole seasons that like the arc of the season is just how depressed he is that he feels like he's going to miss that vocation simply because he can't find her. But even with things like Friends, like other sitcoms, the finale of the entire series is always a marriage of some sort. That's like the end is, hey, look, he finally made it. He finally got married, which I think our culture ignores the end.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, no, I want to have like the sitcom life. I want to have like the friends I hang out with and talk to all the time, which they can't do because we all actually have lives and can't just hang out in each other's apartments every day.
Right.
And like, I want to date, and like, I'll date you for like 5 years, but I don't know if I want to marry you. Okay, well, we'll get engaged, but we don't have to actually plan a wedding yet. We'll do that in like a year or two.
Yeah.
It's like I dated for 3 months before I bought the ring. We were together for 5 months before I proposed.
Yeah.
No, even before we started dating, I texted my mother and I was like, hey, I know who I'm marrying.
Wow.
And the greatest feeling in the world was 3 months into that relationship. I'm talking to her dad and I'm like, I'm hoping to have a certain conversation with you this year. He's like, okay. I'm like, when do you want to do that? Basically meaning like, implying I had thought, when in conjunction with me asking her, should I ask him?
Yeah.
And he just went, I think you should probably ask her sometime in the summer. And I'm like, ask her. And he's like, yeah. Was this the conversation? He's like, oh, yeah. You're good. You're great.
That's great. It's so funny. We were talking earlier just about the radical nature of just living kind of the way everyone used to live in some sense. And it's just such a normal thing. It's so funny to hear you say that because, I really follow a lot of stuff online among young people. I want to understand what's going on. And, that itself is just a radical thing. Just young people getting married right now.
Oh, yeah.
Is like a radical, people your age that are like, nope, I'm dating to find a spouse. I want to build a family with someone. And so we're going to be serious about it. I mean, that itself is just a radical thing. Everyone thinks I can't have children until I have $1 million in the bank, and I can't get married until we've, been together for 10 years. And we really, no one used to do that in the past. It's not,
You don't hear of many arranged marriages getting divorced. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that is, No, exactly. It's partly about, what kind of expectation do you bring to your relationships? Exactly. Are you committed to making this work? And is the point of it to build a family together? Or is the point of it sort of our own gratification, satisfaction? Because if you put all the, if you put all the emphasis on your spouse, you put all this like expectation on them to fulfill me at every level. I just think that that's a recipe for disaster, right? Because no human person, you know, who's not also a divine person can fulfill you in that way, right? To meet all your needs, and you know, they're supposed to fulfill you psychologically and physically, and be at your beck and call and everything. It's just no one's like that. That's not the way human relationships work. You know?
and also relationships will also go through phases where you know, some days and some weeks or months sometimes one needs way more attention and way more reassurance or whatever than the other. It's like, hey, you're not really quote unquote fulfilling me constantly or as much as I'm fulfilling you at this moment, but 2-3 years down the line, this roles will be reversed. And it's like, no,
absolutely.
I'm all in. So of course, even if I'm not getting what I quote unquote need in whatever capacity in return, I'm not gonna abandon you.
Well, it's really hard. I mean, you know, it's really hard because you definitely go through phases and people get sick and all of a sudden they're not able to do the things they normally do for you, and on top of it, you're not only doing their role, but you're like not getting what you feel like is your needs met. It's really, that can be really hard, you know. But what's the alternative? Never investing in other people to that level, to where, I mean, also notice it's 50-50 chance it's you who gets sick or can't, you know. And so what are we going to do? Are we going to live our lives in a way that sort of disconnects us from other people and never really builds those attachments and relationships? And then there's no one to care for us, you know. I just, and vice versa. So it's
a self-defeating ideology. I mean, even like, you know, just as an example, like modern day feminism, the argument's always like, you know, I don't need a man. I'm not going to spend my life, you know, cooking and cleaning and folding laundry. It's like, okay, well, instead now you're working full time and still cooking, cleaning, and folding laundry. You're still doing all the quote unquote housewife things whilst also working the entire time. So another funny thing I've noticed in my generation is a bunch of women saying like, I don't want to have to work. I want to be a housewife, but I can't because in our current culture, I kind of have to work.
Society is basically set up for 2 income earners. So it is really difficult unless you commit early on to say, this is how we want to live. We have to figure out extra ways to make it work, and we won't have all these things, but at least we'll have a certain kind of family life that we think is best for our children. Like, you got to really think about it. It is interesting. You're exactly right, because I'm really interested in these kinds of things. So basically, you know, most women work outside the home now, and then have to come home and do a ton of that labor still. And you might think, as I thought for a long time, well, then maybe that's because, you know, the men aren't helping as much, and so we haven't really gotten rid of those roles. But it's not really true. It turns out men are helping way more. But what's largely happened is that people are spending way more time with their children than they used to, and so the labor has actually increased on everyone. So we've just sort of entered this age of like super intensive parenthood. I read the other day that people who really study this, and they said the average working woman now spends more time with her children, you know, shuffling them from place to place, you know, getting them a tutor, you know, they're going to sports, they're, you know, they have to listen to baby Mozart, and, you know, all this sort of stuff. There's that kind of intensive parenting. The average woman who works outside the home spends more time with her children now than the average housewife of the 1950s.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Which is utterly fascinating, right? And so we've just entered this age of intensive parenting. And so one thing I think, you know, people your age can think about is, what are our priorities in parenting, and how do we build a life where we're not shuffling from activity to activity? You know, how we're being responsible with our children, but not feeling like I only have this one child, I have to make them into the next Einstein, you know, you know, because when we do that, we sort of distort the whole pattern of our life, and we end up teaching our children just such busyness. You know,
and also we teach them like you're expected to be X, Y, or Z. But ultimately, the only thing they're expected to be is, or should be expected to be, is like be a good Catholic. Everything else will fall into place in one way, shape, or form around that.
Well, there's a ton of anxiety in your generation, I think, because of this intensive style of parenting. There's so much pressure put on the student to be on the young person to be, you know, to be excellent. But like you said, that doesn't mean be excellent in virtue. That really means more like go out and achieve worldly success. We expect so much of you. You better be a doctor, an engineer, or, you know, whatever. instead of saying, listen, I want you to, build a beautiful family, be a good person, be a faithful Catholic. Those are our priorities. And that might change the pattern of how we live and whether we're shuffling our kid to every activity. Because I mean, a lot of parents have a lot of FOMO, where they're like, but if my child doesn't do this activity, they're
going to hate me later on in life because I didn't let them.
So they have to do speech and debate, and they have to do soccer, and they have to, and then we just go down the list, and then you're just driving from place to place, and I feel like we teach kids a pattern of busy activity that isn't very mindful and reflective, and it's just about achievement in the kind of worldly sort of way.
Especially achievement that you set up for them. If you're like, hey, I signed you up for this, and this, you're doing that.
Yeah.
One day they'll be like, oh wait, I didn't sign myself up for anything. I have nothing to do.
Yeah. St. Augustine talks about this in the Confessions, that he was sort of brought up in his schools and by his father before he converted and so forth, to just like worldly success is success. And he basically said they took a lot more care for my developing my mind than my sort of heart. They took a lot more care with sort of worldly ambition, instilling that into me as my driving force more than kind of caring for my soul and thinking about the state of my life and how I would depart this life if I left today.
Right.
So this is nothing new.
Right. No.
We're all facing.
There's never anything new.
And as parents, we want good things for our children. We also realize that worldly success is partly important. I mean, you need to have money to raise your family and all these sorts of things. And but we ought to think about these patterns. So one thing, for instance, we've tried to do really hard is we just don't do anything on Sundays. So we're not going to do travel soccer, even though the kids all would thrive in it. We're just not doing anything. We stay home, we make pasta, we hang out together, we play cards, I never thought we would do that because I didn't grow up as exactly a strict Sabbatarian or anything like that. But that's just one way, to spend more time together, to make the family the center of things, to have at least one day where we say no to all the outside stuff, to say this is our priority and this is where we're worshiping, and this is this is the center of things around which the rest of the week revolves around this point. And it's different and it's important, and it's been good for all of us, really. Since we did that. So
that's great.
And
obviously me and my fiance, we have discussions about what might we want to do. And again, at the end of every conversation, I'm like, one, this is years away. Two, this is also theoretical. But one thing that we do want to do is like have Sunday as much as we can. I work for the church, so Sundays are kind of busy for me, but as much as we can have Sunday and at least part of Saturday, just be like, no, we stay as a family. We make something nicer that day. We play board games. We watch a movie together.
Good.
We do something as that, and we know that works.
Totally.
Because you're a very busy man as well.
No. It's been really helpful. Actually, the pandemic helped us in that way too. When we were forced to slow down a little bit, we thought a little bit more intentionally about what do we want the pattern of our week to be like, and it became easier, of course, to stay home for a while, which was great. But it helped us sort of create a new pattern for our lives, which was really helpful.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I guess one question I do want to actually pick your brain on is, how much should the average Catholic, I guess, know about philosophy? Like do you expect, because I'm a philosophy major, you're a doctor of philosophy, you and I are sort of expected to a certain extent know philosophy. You much more than I. But your average Catholic, should they be expected to have read one thing or another? Is there a certain role that it has to play in the Catholic's life, or is that simply just if you want to?
Yeah, good question. I certainly don't think it's a requirement. I think C.S. Lewis made this point, and I think he's right, that some of us are called to pursue those kinds of questions at a very high level for the rest of the body. And not everyone has to do that. In order to hold reasonable beliefs about God, I don't think you need to know a bunch of fancy proofs for God's existence. Now, it can be very helpful for any Catholic or non-Catholic to understand these arguments. But just driving out here, it's beautiful, and there's probably people in your church that are farmers, and I don't make food. I don't know how to make food. Thank God these people are specializing. I mean, they are God's instrument to feed the rest of us. It's beautiful, and that's what they need to specialize in. Now, can it be helpful to know philosophy? 100%. partly because as we start off this conversation thinking about, right, I mean, we're in an increasingly secularized world where, the average farmer is hearing atheistic things that they didn't hear 75 years ago, so it's important for us to have some awareness of these things because we're encountering alternative ideas much more. Like you said, the rise of New Age stuff among young people is really big. People being into crystals and magnets and all kinds of weird stuff that,
freaky.
I mean, I didn't even grow up with, as being some sort of serious cultural force.
This is the new one that lasts like 10 years.
It's really blown up among young people from what I can tell.
Yeah.
But so I think it's very helpful, but I don't think it's everyone's, not only, formal job, but I mean, I don't think it's not some sort of strict requirement, but it can be very helpful. And I guess I would say a couple things. I mean, philosophy is good on its own terms, apart from thinking about the context of philosophy's usefulness to Christians or within the church. Just philosophy is good at just building us into better thinkers by helping us study some of the great ideas of the past, learning a little bit more about the structure of how arguments work, what makes for a good argument, how to avoid the trappings of what look like a good argument but really isn't, things like fallacies and things like that. All these things are really helpful at just sharpening us. And it's so at one level, so if we're talking about studying academic philosophy, no, but each one of us is called to use our rational powers as best as we can and to sharpen our intellect. And that can just be by becoming a better, becoming more of a reader, because maybe you don't read that much right now and you think, what, I could read more though.
Yeah.
So my grandparents are all farmers. My grandparents were incredible readers, and they, none of them were educated past the 8th grade, and they always felt that was a handicap to them, they told me. So they're very sort of glad that I could kind of keep moving in that direction. But they were serious readers, and they would think about ideas, and anyone can do that, and it's part of our flourishing that we think about reality and that we think about what's most important in life, or reading, whether it's reading parenting books about, how do I instill virtues into my children, or whether it's just staying up with cultural, currents and things like that. So sharpening our minds is itself just intrinsically valuable for everybody.
Yeah.
And for Christians, it plays a special role because understanding some of those philosophical ideas gives us the background to much of our theology. So if you're trying to understand Christ has two natures, but you don't understand the concept of a nature, right? And that's the sort of philosophical building blocks out of which we get these great doctrines of the faith. But I don't think that everyone has to be engaged at a high level in those things. Though I would encourage everyone, to be reading people like Lewis and Chesterton are just so helpful for giving us some sort of philosophical. They're not teaching us formal philosophy, but they're very philosophically inclined thinkers who can help us think about key truths of the faith at a higher level. So I think there's a proper division of labor in the body where not everyone has to be doing that intensely. But those who are called to it ought to do it with excellence and do it well, in part for the rest of the body, right? Yeah. And so when new things come up, because we get new technologies, we need to think, are they ethical?
Right.
Thank God we have some people who've devoted their lives to this, just like we have people who devoted their lives to making bread, We need both to live well. And so on one hand, I think it's really important, but I certainly don't think everyone has to do it at that sort of level. But there is a perfection of the mind that everyone ought to strive toward for in their own capacity. Yeah. With whatever gifts God's given to them, they can move a step forward and sharpen their minds and think about the deepest things about where we come from, where's our universe going, things like that. Yeah.
You mentioned the creation of new technology and stuff. How cautious should we be? I know it's probably more Dr. Plato's area. He wrote a book on it or something. But how cautious should we be of like new things, I guess?
Yeah. I just think I think it's the wrong approach to just go along with whatever the current culture is doing. We ought to be more cautious around technology because, partly because it's not like it's being produced just by a fully Christian society that has our eternal good in mind.
Right.
So when new things come out, we ought to think, okay, could this be useful? For some things, great. What are the downsides? How much attention is it taking from me? Or is it truly saving me time? Or is it increasing, the splitting of my attention and my time on things that are maybe less important? The Amish have this great rule of sort of thinking through, not just rejecting all technology for the sake of rejecting all technology, but sort of thinking, wait a minute, does this benefit our community on the whole?
Right.
I was like, that's the question we ought to be asking with all these new things. Does this benefit us on the whole? And, so yeah, so I've tried certain apps, things I thought, oh, well, this sounds interesting. And then I thought, this isn't helping me.
Yeah.
This is distracting my attention. This isn't good for me, So think about whether these things are really helping us lead flourishing lives or not. But I certainly don't think we need to be anti-technology. But I think we ought to think about it at a deeper level. Is this helping me become a better person? Is this helping me? Not that every single app that comes out needs to help you towards heaven in a direct way or something. Obviously not. That'd be too strict of a test for things, right? But whether it's new technology or new shows, right? I mean, is this distracting and dividing my attention? Is it truly helping me relax, or is it, just think about the way some of these algorithms are built to just like bring back our attention, such that even, the studies they found on young children using, smartphones and things, is one of the things they found is, even though kids aren't spending a ton of time, if you go look at some of their usage on the apps, they spend an incredible amount of time thinking about being on the apps and games on their phones when they're not using them. So even it was like 1 hour, oh, that's not bad for my kid, 1 hour a day. But it turns out the kids are thinking about they're just thinking, they're distracted from their schoolwork and thinking about using these apps and these games. They're thinking about them, 3, 4, 5 hours a day. So it's just dominating their minds.
Like, hey, their mom is like, hey, can I have your phone? Can I have your phone? Can I have your phone?
Yeah.
Because it is on their mind constantly.
Yeah. So I think that's the kind of question we got to ask. Is this helping us flourish? And apart from obviously intrinsically wrong technology, right? There's things like that. But apart from that, is this helping us flourish? And what kind of family dynamic is it creating? Is it creating a more peaceful home or a less peaceful home?
Yeah.
And how much of my mental life is it dominating? But there's some incredible new technology.
Oh yeah.
Some of the new AI apps, I'm finding like incredibly useful. This new Google one called Notebook LM is like incredible, for summarizing documents, saving me time on things that I read. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But obviously every new thing that comes out, we ought to be testing in a certain sort of way. And we ought to add, maybe one rule is not only think about it ourselves, but asking those close to us, what are you seeing in my usage of this, or
it's hard to judge oneself
sometimes. Because you're thinking, no, this is good for me. I'm just having a good time. And
I'm enjoying.
You're like, no, you have your earbuds in all the time and you're never listening to me.
Oh yeah.
Because that's easy to do, right?
And we see that with people are always plugged in. I remember my very first day on college campus after high school. I'd been homeschooled. I didn't get my first phone until I had my license, which was 18 because COVID screwed that up. But I had a dumbed down smartphone. I had always just been like, oh, you just talk to people. And so I'm big campus, Catholic Youth Campus is confusing. I'm looking around. I go to this one girl who obviously knew where she was going. And I was like, started talking to her. And she looks at me and just like points to her headphones. I'm like, yeah, I need help. And she's like, and just walked away. And I was like,
wow.
Well, I could follow you and be a creep, but you'd probably go somewhere helpful with a map. But I need someone to help. But we're so involved with them. Headphones mean don't talk to me. And I value my silent or just music time so much while I'm walking. I won't help you. It does become very self-obsessive.
Well, yeah, and then we wonder too why we don't trust each other, why we have sort of less social trust, and when we don't talk to people, even small conversations, or think about how much of our checkout experience is automated, and I think we're having fewer and fewer of those interactions, and I think. And it's not to say that those are all bad things. Sometimes I'm really grateful for the self-checkout thing when I have one item and I don't want to wait. I get it.
You also don't want to talk to someone for 17 questions.
But I literally forced myself to go the other line the other day. And, and the person was just so nice. And, we have a sort of this mutually enriching 5-minute connection that I wouldn't have had otherwise that day. And I think sometimes we forget that with some of our technology, we're losing some of those things. And, and politically, it's like we have this image at least that everyone's at everybody's throat. And you wonder if that's partly that's just because the discussion online is also heated.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we just think that just is reality. And when we really have the people that are the most vociferous kind of on there, the loudest people. And, you do wonder too if combined though with this fact that we're having fewer and fewer just ordinary social connections with people in our community at the store or in line, that's got to add to our sense too that of just isolation and it's easier to believe than when we go and look online that everybody hates everybody and which I don't think is true, but I can see why it's happening given both the online and now the ways that technology is changing our ordinary experience.
Well, sadly, I mean, I confess I'm on Twitter a fair bit during my day. Just it's helpful for me to stay alert. I get news clips from it. I get memes so I can relieve the tension. But I actually, the video that I made for the parish just the other day was about the amount of hatred between Catholics, let alone everybody else, about the new Jubilee mascot, Luce. And I'm like, when I first saw it, when I was scrolling through Twitter, I was like, oh, okay. I don't care. I don't like anime. Okay. Kept scrolling by. I had to defend this thing so much that I'm like, oh, I really like this thing now because you guys are making such a big stinking deal. And saying it's like demonic and satanic. And I'm like, it's not. It's a little toy the Vatican made. Calm down.
And you might think, I can see a case that you think it's hokey, but not over the top. There's
and
some
to make
tool
it a
of
big
Satan
deal.
or something.
Oh, exactly. And to make it a big deal anyway. I mean, I'm very traditional. Like,
I'm surprised you defended this. I know. You felt like other people were going overboard.
Exactly. And it sort of becomes like a less of a, I love this for its inherent beauty, and more of a, simply because I now need to defend it against all these other people who are tearing it down, I have a love for it. And I think actually that's sort of where my generation, why we became so all in one way or another, is that we weren't raised very political. Like growing up, my parents sort of mentioned politics here and there. It wasn't a thing. And the main discussions they had between themselves, it wasn't a dinner table discussion. I didn't get news from them. I was just told oh, this guy's bad. Okay. Oh, we like this guy. Oh, okay. Which is sort of like how you grow up anyway. But I got to high school and suddenly some friends of mine were sort of saying oh, well, no, I'm totally okay with drugs being legal. And I was like, see, that sounds wrong. I'm like, yeah, but why? I mean, the government shouldn't tell me what I can put in my body. And I'm like, that sounds right too. So I start reading all these books and listening to all these podcasts. And I'm like, actually, well, no, freedom doesn't mean do whatever the hell you want. It means do what you should do. Until I realized that thesis class isn't a thesis class anymore. That's what I was going to write my thesis on, was about that. But it is a sort of, we had to find something that we wanted to defend, and then we held on to it. And I think for instance with abortion, that's what you'll find with the most vehement defenders. You'll always say, did you have an abortion? It's yes. Okay, that's why you're defending it. Because it's harder for you to accept it as wrong once you defended it. Or you like it even more. It may have been iffy when you got one. And maybe right after you got one, right beforehand, someone could have convinced you. But now that it's just been so long what you've defended or what you've heard defended, now you actually want to defend it.
I heard some people I actually like on the internet the other day, some men basically, I mean, I knew that these people were pro-abortion, but it was interesting that they finally it came out as to why, and it was very clear that they just thought, well, obviously, otherwise we can't have all these random and sexual encounters. Exactly. Because then we would bear some responsibility. But they were framing it in terms of well, that's just obviously the way we should behave, and so it wouldn't be fair. So it's framed as a fairness argument for the women.
Right.
Which obviously if you had accepted the premise, well, we should be able to have consequence-free sex, then
they should have consequence-free sex.
Then it was a kind of fairness argument for women's rights and autonomy or something like that.
The response is, no, there is no consequence-free sex. That's why it's meant for marriage. You only do it with your spouse, and then if children happen, cool.
Yeah, I just thought, well, the premise is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, anytime you debate it, they'll bring up the most minute detail about I'll say oh, I'm against divorce. And they're like, oh, so what about abusive relationships? I'm like,
right.
Okay, well, yes, in that case you have to get out, but you can't get remarried.
Yeah, that is one of the hazards of public argumentation these days. Is it seems like one of the go-to moves consistently is we're not allowed to have any standards because there could be real exceptions or really difficult circumstances.
Right.
And I just want to call out the move at the beginning and say, wait, are you just saying? So let's stop talking about marriage. if we're talking about anything, do you not think we should have like any standards for stuff? Mm-hmm. Because there could be any standard we have, there will be a difficult circumstance. So we shouldn't have, like, I'd really call it out from the very beginning, because the fight there doesn't even sound like it's about marriage per se. It's some deeper thing about like being anti-standards at all, or having any ideals in life, you know?
Or just not wanting consequence.
Yeah,
it is the whole Friends thing. Back to the sitcoms. I'll do it when I'm ready. There's no rush.
Yeah,
because obviously life will continue. I can just press pause. It's like, well, you can never press pause on life. You're aging, they're aging, and you know, men are fertile long after women are.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, like maybe for like a guy, you can be like your late 30s and get married and it all work out. But in her late 30s, early 40s, she probably, if she has any kids, will maybe one or two, not many more though, because they're old.
Yeah,
when it comes to childbearing.
I know. Yeah, it is one of the sad things. You know, women my age in the last 5 years or so, you know, who've pursued sort of, you know, other things. Many people that I know have sort of now gotten to this point where it's going to be very hard, if at all, for them to have children, and they've now started to realize that that's more important than what they were told growing up, and they were encouraged to pursue sort of worldly success, but not success at family at all, and if that comes, that's like a bonus, but it's not the thing to be pursued within my life. Yeah, and it is really sad. And that's what I was thinking about when you're talking about the young woman talking about Starbucks or whatever. I was thinking, you know, many women in hindsight think, oh no, that's not
what's important.
Yeah, that wasn't what was, it would have been, Starbucks is great, but free time's great, but it's not, endless free time isn't what life is about. It's not everything. Yeah.
It's, and the funny thing is they're getting a ton of pets in lieu of children, even like married couples nowadays. And I was thinking about that this morning when I was getting ready for the day, because you know, I knew you're coming with your family, and I was thinking, oh well, he has a family, and thought about family for a little bit, and then I thought about like the whole dog mom stuff. I was like, well, actually, the argument's always like a cost thing. Dogs are still expensive, just like buying the dog in general, all the medications, all the vet trips. But then also, kids, after only like a couple years, take care of themselves more and more and more until eventually they're gone.
Yeah.
The dog, you have the dog for like 15, 20 years. And the entire 15, 20 years, you'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you're, 10? Well, I expect you can go to the bathroom and brush your teeth and get ready for bed and pick out your clothes by yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you wait till 10, I don't know. But and also, like, I'm not promoting child labor, but like, like the kids, they get to their age, like, okay, help around the house.
Useful.
Like, can you set the table?
No, totally.
It's like the chores is a thing. It's like hey, we brought you into life, and like, we feed you and clothe you and stuff.
Yeah.
Can you help like set the table and vacuum once in a while?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think people do overestimate. I mean, one thing that I see that really saddens me online, among young people is just this meme in their heads that children are just so insanely expensive, and unless you have $100,000 ready to go, you can't have a child yet. And it's not true.
And the kids like annoying, and like I pass on something like, hey, like I get it too. Some days during mass, you hear the kids scream at the top of their lungs, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
but
yeah. But first of all, that was all of us. And,
exactly. You were once a fetus. You were once screaming in church.
That's right. And people massively overestimate too. So for instance, we meet a lot of, other couples that maybe have 2 children, and they see us having 5, and they'll just say, man, we could never afford that. And I'm thinking, you have 2 young children, an extra cup of rice in the rice pot is like nothing.
Oh, yeah.
For a very long time, until they get quite big, like they're overestimating. They're thinking that having 5 children is 5 times as expensive as having 1 child.
Right.
But that's not true, because you already have the baby car seat, and you already have at least a minimal set of clothes for the kids,
right.
and it's not the same, right? You're not adding 5 times the cost for 5 times the children.
Exactly. I eat a lot, and now when I was like first, which is ironic because I don't look it, but when I was first looking at like expenses, I was thinking like, oh gosh, like getting married soon. Like I know she's gonna like be working as well, at least for a little while. But I'd like to be able to tell her you're fully able to stop working if you want to.
Yeah.
I want to be able to give her that freedom.
Yeah.
And I was terrified coming out here because I'm like, I've never lived alone before. I've never like not had anyone helping me before. Like, this is brand new and terrifying, and also 6 hours away from where I'm from, so it's even worse.
Yeah.
But I suddenly realized, like a little into it, I was talking to my fiance. I'm like, hey, dear, we can easily live off my income before kids, and if I get like a decent enough raise by the time we have a kid, you don't have to work. I just realized because I buy like a big pack of chicken for like $7.
Yeah.
I get 2 dinners out of that.
Right.
I can easily have you and a kid also having this dinner. It's not that much more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like you have to pay 2 rents now, or you have to exactly.
Rent's still the same. Power's probably still the same.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We just lose sight of. Again, it's losing sight of the logical argument for the sake of a feeling or an impulse.
Yeah. Well, we do have to adjust our expectations some. I mean, if, for those of us that are blessed to have many children, you do have to adjust your expectations some, right? I mean, some things can be hard. The world is built, largely if it's built for families at all, which it really isn't, but insofar as it is, and like, you go to get a hotel room and it'll be like maximum of 4 people. And you're like, wait a minute, hotel room? Why are there only 4 people out in here? We've got a couch. So you just find out that there are many frustrations like that because the world just isn't built now. Businesses aren't trying to serve us because there aren't that many of us that, sort of live that way. And so, so there'll be extra frustrations. There'll be some things that will be extra expenses. And sometimes we just have to adjust our expectations and say, nope, not all my children are going to be privately tutored or go to private schools or what, and that's okay. Like, it's okay. So there's some things we won't do, but they'll have other blessings. I mean, to have a bunch of brothers and sisters, I mean, how much of a blessing is that, to have these lifelong friends and to know that even if I were to pass, my boys have their brothers, and what a good thing.
Yeah, I didn't get along with all my brothers growing up, but especially since there was a bit of an age gap, like there's 5 years between me and the next brother, and then I have a little sister. And it's only so much you can connect with when it's the sister. But at this point, we're all in our relatively early 20s now, and the age gap is basically non-existent. We're like, we're all living on our own, we're all working, they all are married, but by next year we'll all be married, and it's like, okay, now we're just together, and we talk a lot more. And it's weird to think about, like, hey, all these friends who I thought like I'd be talking with my entire life, I don't talk to that much.
Yeah.
Like, I would say friends from college, I still talk to fairly regularly because, they're not too far away. One guy from high school who I talk with semi-regularly, and that's meaning like a phone call a year, maybe 2. And then we'll send memes once in a while. That's just how I talk with people. That's how I remind people I still know who they are. Yeah. I'll send like a meme and be like, no context, just there we go.
I think that's your generation's love language, is actually memes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is so funny because it's not mine.
Oh, no, exactly. Like, it's funny. Like, I'll be like, find something, I go to my parents, like, oh, wasn't this funny? And they're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But like, look to my fiance, I'm like, I send my fiance memes every day. Yeah. That's a good thing. So we'll be on FaceTime, like, oh, hey, I just sent you some memes that I found today. And she's like, oh my gosh, really? Oh my gosh, then let me look at them. And I'm like, that was like one of the things when we were like dating that made me like, okay, I'm definitely marrying you because you appreciate my memes. Not only do you like my humor, which is encapsulated in the meme, but you like when I send them to you.
That's so good. Says something about your humor, and you personalize them for her. It's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's great.
I've watched people your age have strong meme game, and I'm impressed. It's its own skill set, right?
It's its own thing. And there's actually a funny thing that I'll see online often is this like, like a hashtag movement. It's like the whole like, or the left can't meme, which is funny because I've noticed that it's true. If you look at like conservative Catholic values, there's humor everywhere. It's hilarious. Like, I always make jokes like, no one knows how to party like a Catholic because they know how to have just the right amount of everything without it being excessive. Yeah. No one knows how to do anything like a Catholic. But also, if you are normal, you can make fun of anything as long as it's like you don't cross a certain line. Like, anything can be made fun of.
Yeah.
Like, I make religious jokes tastefully, I hope, usually, more often than not. I did go to a professor's office hours one time. I was like, please teach me how to, like, where is the objective line? I need to know when I can make jokes, when I can't. Please, regarding God. the verdict is I can still make Jesuit jokes, which is good to know. But no, it is like you can make fun of stuff and you can just sort of enjoy life. But the other side, and I think you find this with the whole feeling-based everything that we talked about earlier, you can't make a joke because one person might be offended.
Right. Yeah. Where again, that's kind of the highest priority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like if you're offended, well, now I must be the bad person.
Yeah.
But like the amount of someone the other day made a joke about Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And it's getting so much more airtime than it ever should have. It's like you made a joke about Costa Rica, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Yeah.
I don't know geography very well.
Yeah.
If it's Spanish, forgive me.
South somewhere to you.
Forgive me if it's Spanish. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that was a joke. The guy speaking was a comedian.
Yeah.
Like maybe assume it was a joke and nothing to get offended about.
Yeah. It is weird. It is weird. It's just not the way people my age, grew up. And I grew up in a very sort of multicultural place, and I mean, I'm old enough. Like people were making legit ethnic jokes all the time, but it was partly like almost like a love language.
Oh, right.
Like you make the Polak jokes, and you make and everyone had their own little the Italian jokes, and it was one way to kind of mess with each other and acknowledge some differences in a friendly kind of way. But it's weird. It's weird to see that change. That it's weird to think that we're like more sensitive to that now,
right?
When we didn't, I don't know.
But I think with that comes again with like the all-in mentality. You'll get like my generation. I admit we have a very, very dark sense of humor, and once you move away from like the more feelings-based ideologies, is a very racial sense of humor.
Interesting.
And we're all fine with it. I have black friends. I have Mexican friends. I have I'm Irish and Italian.
Yeah.
I get made fun of for being Irish and Italian.
Yeah.
I used to say I'll never drink. I changed my mind when I turned 21.
Yeah.
But, I would say that. And people would say, like, you're Irish. You're not allowed to do that.
You'd be like giving up your
exactly.
your ethnicity.
It's like this is your only defining trait. You can't claim to be Irish. I don't care what documents you have. It doesn't matter that you're a citizen. You can't not be drinking if you're Irish.
That's funny.
And the same to me, like people who I'm friends with, they call me a wop.
Yeah.
Jokingly.
Yeah.
And I don't get offended. I'm like,
right.
It's a racial slur, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you find that it's like, it's a very heavily like I used to lean more left, but I was still like at the very least center. I was like, no, don't make like gender-based or like racial-based humor. That's just not good taste.
Yeah.
And then again, it was sort of like the more like I had to defend certain things, the more I ended up loving it.
Yeah.
The more I'm like, okay, well, it's not immoral. I'm just like, hey, it's not my style. But the more I was saying, the more I was like, hey, you know what? I have every right to make this joke.
Yeah.
If it's in good fun and good taste. Like you can't tell me that that's wrong simply because you might get your feelings hurt. I won't tell it to you then.
Yeah. It's hard. I think the danger on the other side is something like, I don't know, make it a little more personal. So so I have 5 boys, so they're always just like trying to poke each other with every comment is trying,
which never ends. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what my wife just can't take it, but I'm also trying to say that's part of, there's something much more male about this, it seems to me. I don't think that's the way women relate to each other. Like, I can't believe you look so fat. Like, that's not the way, you know what I mean? Right. Whereas, like, literally, I make fun of Bruninger. One time he made a comment about his fat thighs, and I can't let it go now, Like, every time I see him, like, they look kind of,
I know 5 fat people on your 4.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I like, so there's something very, very, there's something about men teasing each other. And it's funny, though, because it clearly has boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this fine line. You keep pushing up against the boundary in order to, in a way, show affection without crossing it. To say, I know you, you know me, because I can tell where the lines are. Is some weird thing that men do.
And those same men, it's only to each other. Like, if you're behind the person's back, you talk to the person who's not there.
Yeah.
In the nicest way possible. When they're there, you're attacking them.
But the thing I'm always trying to instill in my boys too, though, is listen. I understand that's what we do. We mess with each other a little bit, and it's actually affectionate. But there's a big difference between that and like really trying to get the other person, really trying to burn them in front of their friends, or you know, whatever it is. And I think I guess I wish, yeah. So actually, I mean, I'm very much on the side of the culture right now that thinks, oh, good Lord, get over the joke. You know, and I think you're exactly right. The idea that took up that one joke at a political rally that I wasn't even at took up my headspace for more than 10 seconds really ridiculous. Makes me angry in a way. Yeah. At the same time, I think there's parts of the internet though that are like, well, the way we show the secular left or whatever, that we're allowed to tell jokes as we tell the meanest, stupidest ones, and then we shove it in their face and we act like there aren't any boundaries. And it's like, no, that's not the Christian view. You know what I mean? But there's obviously people trying, but I get where they're coming from because they're trying to almost, but I guess the worry is that in any situation that the virtuous thing is not to go to the opposite extreme of our enemies in order to show them their faults. Right. Because then we just have the opposite faults. Oh, exactly. We just become mean. Exactly. You know? And like, you can't take a joke, but then I become mean. Exactly. And it's like, to show you that you should be able to take a joke, I'm going to become a mean person. Right. And it's like, oh, and it's like, well, no, that's not the virtuous mean, right? Right. Exactly. So it's, you know, it's just Aristotle again, right? Like the virtue is in the mean and trying to, you know, and try to show the moderate, you know, the moderate position. Yes, we can tell jokes, but no, we don't want them to be mean, and you know. Exactly. And I think just as like Aristotle says, the mean will shift depending on the person. That's right. It'll also depend with exactly. So like hanging out with like my friends at night after like a drink or two. Yes. Our humor is very different than what I would say during a talk or during a video. I'm like, no. There's professional, there's casual, and there's also which friends am I with? Like, I have like more left-leaning friends. I'm like, okay, well, I don't tell certain jokes around you because I know you hate that type of humor. Right. But it's not because I think that humor is bad. I think it's out of respect for you and knowing what you find funny. A joke's only funny if it's actually funny. Yeah. Well, and that was what was unfortunate actually about the joke that you were referring to was it's a bad context for making fun of actually like a sort of an ethnic group or an island because you're at a political event, it automatically becomes political in a way that the joke on its own is not. Right. So I actually think it was like, that was the kind of joke you shouldn't tell. First of all, why are you having that kind of comedian at a political rally? Because you don't know what he's going to say. I was shocked they had him. Because he's kind of a raunchy, like even a roast type comedian, right? That's what he does. He insults. Like I would not. Yeah, exactly. I would never ask him to speak. At a political rally. Exactly. But at the same time, I think you're right. I mean, the idea that we're all like. It is weird. I mean, we just live in a weird time where one comment here or there then becomes the subject of a news cycle, which is really incredible. But I think it's like the biggest downfall of the technological revolution and evolution that we've had in recent years. It's one, everything's immortal. You can't, like, I had a priest friend one time who used to say, don't do anything stupid. When you do, don't take pictures. Yeah. Meaning, don't make this immortal. Like, if you do something stupid with your friends when you're in high school, fine. That's normal. That's in high school. Do not, like, take videos and post on TikTok and Instagram, because then 30, 40 years down the line, that still exists somewhere. Someone might be able to find it. Yeah. And, like, I know people who, when they start dating someone new or think they might want to date someone, they'd find their Instagram profile and start scrolling through it, like, what are they like? And I'm like, whoa. One, like, people show me a picture, like, oh, I don't want to date this guy. I'm like, okay, one, I know this guy. He's a great guy. Yeah. That was 4 years ago at a party. Yeah. Party you is different than normal you. 4 years ago, you is different than current you. It's like, don't judge him based on that. Like, right. But, oh, man, I'm so glad I didn't grow up with any of that. I'm so happy that I stayed away from social media. Like, I think the only things that I have on social media nowadays are things that I've posted in the past couple of years, which are my TikTok account that I used to have. I deleted it because I hate TikTok now. But if anyone recovers what I had, it's either cringy videos about Star Wars, which sure I'll own. I'm a Star Wars fan, or like me commenting on religious tension. I'm like, I'm fine with both of those happening. That's still my job. On my Twitter account, I'm like, hey, if anyone finds my replies, my posts, my retweets, I don't care. It's all what I would say anyway. I wear my opinion and my thoughts on my sleeve. If you ask me what I think, I will tell you. Depending on the context, I'll tell you more nicely or less nicely. But I'm not ashamed if you find whatever's on social media. But stuff that I might have posted if I had Instagram or TikTok or whatever back in high school, I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. I'm happy you can't find stupid things I might have said back then. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? What do you think is going on culturally with young men in terms of seem to be performing worse in school, seem to not be pursuing serious work as much, sort of delaying childhood, don't seem to be asking a lot of women on dates. Like, what's your sense of what's going on?
Yeah. I think part of it is definitely the misguided view of what we see online. Because if you look online at anything dating related, it's all a bunch of women saying, no, body count doesn't matter. I don't need no man. The man should never spend less than $200 on a first date. And most of us hear that and we're like, okay, I'm not doing that.
It's not like so much pressure and huge expectations.
And their response is always, because again, like if you look at it in like a sexual point of view, the response is always like, well, are you going to like go back to the guy's room with him then?
Right.
And she's like, no, I don't owe him that. It's like, well, he just paid all this money for you.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but I've spent time with him.
So they're upset that one side's viewing it transactionally, and
then most guys are like, no, I remember.
So they're either going to view it transactionally too, or give up, basically.
Or give up, and most of them just give up. And I mean, I know this for a fact. When I left seminary and got started to get back into the dating game, I was online a little bit and like dating apps and everything. Like I'd like meet people on like online and stuff, and we'd talk. And it would start off as like a good conversation, and then they would like send me a link to their online exclusive page. They'd be like, "Hey, why don't we get to know each other better here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, how about?" And I would say to them, "Well, how about instead we go on a date? Like you say you're in my area. Do you want to go on a date?" Yeah. And they're like, No, I want to make sure that you're into me first. I said, no, I am into you. That's why I want to meet you in person and pay for dinner.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but I need to make sure you're interested in like me physically. I said, well, is that all you care about? And so I would block all of them. I'm like, okay, yeah.
I'm not a piece of meat, doggone it.
Exactly. It's like I'm like, what? One, I'm not a bank and you're not meat. So I'm not just here for you to get money so I can look at your body. But like, men see that and we encounter it online. So that's one of our thoughts. I'm blessed to know a lot of wonderful women because, again, and people will ask me sometimes, like, hey, like, you're happy, you found a great girl. Is that like a once and done? Like, is she like purely a diamond in the rough, or is there a way for someone else to find that? And I'm in an awkward position because I'm like, okay, well, yes, she is a diamond in the rough, and she is one in a million to me.
Yeah.
But yes, you can find other women who are traditional and good. You can find men who are traditional and good. Go to a old school Catholic parish, not even like a Latin.
I was just going to ask what your advice is. It mainly, I mean, because obviously you go to some random bar, it's not like you're going to meet the greatest people. So do you think the kind of getting involved in the parish is the best way for young people to?
I think that is
to meet each other.
I think that's the way because, again, especially with men, we're not as incentivized to ask someone out, and even then, men asking out and women asking out, we view it two different ways. So women apparently nowadays, at least, if the word date isn't used, they don't view it as a date. Whereas a guy, to finally get up the courage to go to that girl who he's like liked from the front of class all semester to say, hey, do you want to go get coffee with me? That's him so obviously saying go on a date. But all she hears is, oh yeah, let's get some coffee. Yeah. And I've had friends who like did that and they didn't say date. And the girl had a friend with her when they went to the date and he's like, oh, this was a date. And she's like, oh, I had no idea.
That's funny because I think when I was about your age, I feel like that started to shift a lot. And so I remember specifically telling myself in my early 20s, I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask someone to coffee anymore. Or if I'm ever asking someone on a date, I'm going to use the word date. Like specifically.
Oh, exactly.
Because I'm like, part of it was like, I was like, you're not allowed to, I was like, we both know this is a date. You're not allowed to brush it off like it's not a date.
Exactly. I need to define our terms. Right now. Exactly. No, I remember, in the few weeks, I was out of seminary for probably about 6 months before I started dating my now fiance. And during that time, I went on a couple different dates with some different girls. And the first one who I went out with, I just said, hey, do you want to get lunch later this week? And she's like, perfect. And if like the next day, I was like, I didn't say date. And she said yes. Maybe I'm missing something. So I texted her and said, hey, just so you know, I was asking you on a date.
You wanted to make sure that we were clear before we go.
Exactly. Yeah. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. I said, oh, okay. Do you still want to go? Like, you don't have to go if you don't want to. She's like, oh, no, I still like to. I was like, oh, okay.
Cool.
That's really good. Great. That's good to know.
That's great.
And but I think it's just how, like, for instance, like modesty is a twofold issue. It's not just women. It's not just men.
Yeah.
I think the dating game is a twofold issue. It's like, yes, there are tons of women out there, but the traditional good women won't ask you out because they know they're meant to be pursued. Yeah. And so they're not going to ask a guy who they like.
Right.
But we need men who are willing to do that.
You know what's so funny, going full circle to what we were talking about earlier about just sort of this weird view of masculinity as whatever this online manosphere thing is. Man, you want to stand out as a young man, just like get a job, you know, get a direction, and I mean, start a life that someone might actually want to join you with is the first step. But then, you know, you would stand out just by doing, you know, here's 2 good rules, it seems to me. Use the word date when you mean date. Don't ever break up with anyone over a text. Be willing to have the hard conversation. And, you know, you know, I bet you just stand out just by doing like normal, what I view of as very normal things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it tells people, even the person on the other end, you respect them. So even if like you're breaking up with a girl, but you do it in person, yes, she'll probably be annoyed or hurt or whatever, depending on the situation. But she'll also be like, I'm really happy you told me in person, though. Like, I'm actually really happy about this because I feel more respected. It wasn't just like a text her and be done with it type of thing. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see your face. I want to deal with like the fallback. It's like the whole I don't want consequences thing again.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be able to tell you.
Yeah, and that's just avoiding responsibility. It's very unmanly.
It's the opposite of masculinity. But again, to go back to the culture, our culture not only, you know, promotes women as like the end all be all, which again, women are great. I love women. I'm definitely very, very, very straight. But women aren't good simply because they're women. It's like, no, they're owed respect and they're owed honor. That's what chivalry is. It's I honor you because you're a woman, simply because you're a woman. But that doesn't mean that men are nothing. So men, we still are like, well, no, I have worth. So if you want me to treat you traditionally, so if you want me to like pay for the date and open the door and like be willing to like defend you if need be, I want the traditional thing in return.
Yeah.
You aren't sleeping with other people.
Yeah.
I know that you're pure. I know that you will respect me. And then in regards to like Christian marriage, I know that you'll defer to my leadership when something like might come up and when you might have to.
Yeah.
And I think so. Like in college, for instance, it's harder in college to like have the job, like have the direction.
Yeah.
But to have a plan of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
If you meet someone who's like, I don't really know what I want to do after college.
Yeah.
It's not as attractive as a man who says, no, after college, I want to do this and this. I want to live here. This is what this type of life I want to have.
Yeah. There's nothing to join at, you know.
Oh, exactly. I went on 1 second date with someone before dating Clara.
Yeah.
Because every single first date I said, hey, just so you know, I date for marriage.
Yeah.
These are my expectations in life. This is the type of guy I am, at least that I try to be.
Right.
This is how I live my life. Just so you know, because one, I don't want to waste your time with another date. I don't want to, from a purely pragmatic point of view, I don't want to waste my money on a second date.
Yeah.
If this isn't something you're even interested in from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful because one, they feel respected, and I still saw some of them around campus here and there. We always waved, we always said hi. It was like
no hard feelings.
Exactly.
Well, that is one thing. That's one thing I'm always telling my Franciscan students. I mean, just go on a lot of first dates. I mean, there's no shame in that, and there's no. I mean, there shouldn't be any huge expectations after a first date that there have to be more. I mean, that's just, you know, everybody's trying to get to know each other and see if we're compatible and see if we're heading in the same sort of direction, you know. And
then for men as well, it's like it's not that. It sounds terrifying and it feels terrifying. It's not that hard to ask someone on a date.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like first walk over and like, you know, there's all like the fears of like what might happen. Now, back in the day, the worst you could say was no.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, nowadays, women post things online.
Oh man.
Women comment online. So a lot
this
of guys
guy's a creep and blah blah
exactly.
blah.
So guys are scared of that too. They're like, okay, wait a second. Like, depending on how she reacts and what type of girl she is, because again, sometimes you might not know the girl.
Right.
It's like, oh, she's just a pretty girl in class.
Okay. Yeah.
It's also like, okay, well, what if you're like super liberal and I didn't even know? Yeah. And something can like find, because people post each other's social media. What do you like? Post my social media tag and, you know,
and say this guy's a creep and he's trying to
stay away from him. Like, you know, he like, because I mean, you see it with like the gym videos nowadays, like women in the gym saying, like, oh, guys are looking at me creepily. And people like dissect those videos nowadays.
Yeah,
and say, like,
I've seen that.
That guy was just doing a pull up.
Yeah.
And also, you set up like 5 recording things around yourself. So yeah, they're going to look in your general direction because that's not normal in the gym.
Right.
So it is a terrifying, because again, sadly with today's culture, women, if they ask a guy out, bold and empowering. If they break up with the guy, bold and empowering. Men, sadly with today's culture, it's if you ask the guy out and if you ask the girl out and she says no, you're a creep.
That's weird.
If you break up with her, it's like 98% of the time going to be viewed as your fault.
Yeah.
And, yes, part of that is true. Like, yes, men, you direct things, and even if you're just dating, you're to an extent head of that relationship.
Yeah.
That's why, you don't usually ask the girl where you want to eat, because you spend the next 45 minutes to an hour figuring out where to eat. Girls want a guy who's like, no, we're going to go here.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we'd like to go on a date to this place, to this type of place.
Like you put some thought into this.
Exactly. So
that's interesting.
But again, to get out of the culture, one, don't have social media. I have just Twitter for the sake of getting some fun memes and to stay up to date on some things without watching 5 or 6 different podcasts a day.
Yeah.
So get off social media. Get involved in your parish. Find a and if you don't happen to have a traditional parish near you, that's fine. Create some sort of traditional men's group. At this parish, it's more traditional leaning than most parishes, but this is just more like a central parish.
Yeah.
But we started a men's whiskey and cigar group.
Cool.
And it's like, yeah, once a month we get together. There's drinks, cigars, a little bit of food.
Yeah.
And you can just sort of hang out with other guys.
Yeah.
And one that enriches you as a man and growing what a man should be and talking about problems that men have without worrying about like a woman being there or whatever, or hurting someone's feelings. And then you'll be more okay to be like, okay, wait, all these guys with all these different backgrounds have wives and kids. I can do that too.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
And I can just go to the girl in my parish or my class and say, hey, we're going on a date.
That's cool. I hadn't thought of the social media component, and certainly I think, if that's a concern for a young man, like I'm gonna get on one of these videos that like devastates you and makes, because they said you were a creep when all you did was ask someone out, I'd be like, get off social media, man. If that's keeping you from dating, get off social media, because it's so much more important.
Because it gives you wrong expectations.
Yeah.
And there's also danger.
Totally. Yeah.
Exactly. But then again, that's what holds men back on the female side of it. Women, don't post horrible pictures of yourself online. Like, don't post bikini pictures or beach pictures or anything.
Yeah.
Because that's not a good look.
Yeah.
Because a guy will also look you up if he's going to go on a date with you.
Yeah.
And if all he sees is, you post like 5 or 6 different pictures of yourself in a revealing outfit.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want from you out of that.
That's not exactly what I was looking for.
Exactly. Like, you don't need to wear like denim skirts to the ankles.
Yeah.
But have respect for yourself, because a guy wants that too. Because it's hard for a guy to respect a woman who won't respect herself.
Yeah.
In today's culture, women aren't taught to respect themselves whilst being told that's respect.
Right.
So we'll meet a woman who's dressed provocatively and appropriately, and the hardest conversation any guy ever has with his girlfriend nowadays is to say, like, hey, since we've been dating for this long, are you okay if you don't wear bikinis to the beach?
Yeah.
A girlfriend I had in high school almost broke up with me over that discussion. Her mother told her to break up with me over that discussion. So I was like, I'm not at the public pool with you. I'm not at the beach with you the most of the time that you go. I don't want other guys looking at my girlfriend in less clothes than I see you in anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying I want to see you in less clothes. It's me saying, can you wear more, especially when I'm not there?
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And it's hard because men, we inherently want a traditional thing, even if we claim that we don't. And it's harder to get women on board with that because their culture is so heavily against that, especially for women.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
It's a crazy world, and you sadly are on the front lines of it with teaching college kids.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay in touch with what's happening, because it's amazing how quickly culture can move on. I mean, I still picture myself as a young person, but it's not true anymore. And it's just amazing.
You still have some brown in your beard.
Yeah, tiny bit. It's amazing how different, say, even the high school experience is from what it was when I was a kid, and the way phones have changed things, and and just a lot more. I mean, I want to say something like confusion, just about how do we do this? I mean, I think people still my age just grew up with the expectation. Well, walk up to someone and you ask them on a date, and there's just more. There's not as many sort of social scripts that make it easy for people, and how to politely. Here's the script for politely saying no, and here's the script for saying yes. And I don't. It's like my kids who don't know how to talk on the phone because they don't. So they haven't grown up with like phones on the wall,
right?
And and it's not like we're getting calls all the time, and they don't answer the phone. So if I give them a phone, they don't know how to talk on it, and it's really awkward because they weren't taught a certain script for here's how you answer, here's what you say, here's how you end the conversation. Don't say this. They don't know they don't have the script for it, and it sounds to me like dating is something like that for nowadays, people more your age, where there just isn't a shared script where we know how this goes really easily.
Right. I make jokes. The old script, which is what I followed, and now I'm engaged, is very simple. It's you like her, you ask her out, you date, and then there's two roads: you break up, or you get engaged, and get married. Totally. And now it's, oh, I like him. Oh, we're talking. Oh, well, now we're hanging out. Well, now we're going on dates.
Was there a texting phase before the talking phase?
Exactly.
And was
there is the text and talk phase different? Like, which one was it? And then there's like, okay, well, now we're dating, but we're not official. Well, we're official, but we don't want labels. Okay, well, now we've labeled it. We've been together for like 3 years now. And I'm like,
And then you're engaged, then there's memes, and then you get married.
Exactly. No. The memes have to be how you ask them out.
Okay.
If you're not going to do it in person, you have to send the meme first.
Okay.
If she laughs at your meme, keep her. If she doesn't, know your worth, kings.
That's funny. That's funny. I like that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and being here. It was so good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.